When I first joined my school's cross-country team freshman year, most of my practices, admittedly, were me sneaking off to Burger King to go to the bathroom. Sure. I could never make it to practice, but I sure was on a fast track to a good meal. That's how my dread of running began. I always felt so ashamed being the slowest guy in my team, and my teammates did not help. So I felt pretty worthless, and it seriously affected my mental health for a while. That is, until I decided to talk to my coach about quitting. I said, "Coach, I don't think I want to be on this team anymore. I'm the slowest guy here, and I'm tired of getting no results." My coach said, "Josh, maybe if you laid off the burgers and stopped being a fatty, you would get somewhere in this team." I was appalled, except he didn't actually say that. He said something more along the lines of, "Josh, I can't tell you that running won't be hard. But if you look to us and your teammates for support and continue putting in hard work, everything will work out in the end. Just stick it out." We had a few more longer conversations about my feelings, and eventually I decided, you know what, I will stick it out. So I did. At the end of the season, I ended up turning my 8:45 mile into a 6:10, which, not to brag, turned into a 5:05. So I was pretty proud of myself. In the end, I'm so glad that I talked to my coach and stuck it out. Running felt like a true accomplishment, and is something that I now really enjoy in my life. That being said, many athletes may not feel as comfortable as I did when experiencing mental health problems, and they hesitate to reach out, which is what leads many athletes to experience heightened anxiety, stress, and mental or physical exhaustion. According to McLean Hospital, almost 35% of athletes struggle with mental health, and 85% of trainers believe that anxiety among young athletes is a prevalent concern. In a study done by Charlie Health, clinically reviewed by professional counselor Sarah Leiter, as many as half of elite athletes have gone through a mental health crisis at least one point in their lives. Going off of elite athletes, there are numerous elite athletes who have suffered silently with their mental health. But there have also been many who have came out and talked about their experiences with mental health. Athletes like Simone Biles, Kevin Love, Michael Phelps, or Naomi Osaka, who have all suffered with their fair share of anxiety, stress, depression, or panic attacks. These elite athletes show us that being strong and being successful as an athlete doesn't mean you can't be vulnerable and reach out for support when you need it. But however, in modern times, many athletes may not agree with this. There was a study done by the NCAA in a period between November 17th and December 13th, 2021. In this study, 9,800 college athletes were interviewed. And in this study, when asked, 69% of women and 63% of men said that they knew where to go for mental health counseling and support. However, only 48% of women and 46% of men said they felt comfortable and supported reaching out for help from a counselor or a social worker. This data suggests that the obstacle to athletes getting the mental health support that they need is not the availability of counseling, but them feeling supported and comforted to go to this counseling. I know myself, being a cross-country runner, I would have never told my teammates about my mental health problems, because they would have called me a crybaby and told me to suck on a pacifier. Similar to how Kevin Love, when he first had panic attacks, hesitated to tell any of his teammates about it, because he thought it would make him look weak and unreliable as a basketball player. And I get it. It can be hard and sometimes embarrassing to share personal info and sensitive topics about yourself. But why? Why is this fear so prevalent? Why are athletes so hesitant on reaching out for support when they need it? Well, a big reason stems from the flawed culture and cultural norms of many athletic activities. When I was a wee old lad playing Little League baseball as a young chipper, I used to hear so many different sayings. Sayings like, toughen up, stop being a crybaby, stop being a whiny dramatic crybaby. Sayings like these discourage athletes from getting the support that they need and can additionally throw them off physically or throw off their competition as well. In the conclusion of a study done by the NIH, they stated that athletic injury negatively impacts mental health, and that athlete mental health impacts three things. First, the consistency of injuries for athletes. Second, how long it takes athletes to recover from their injuries. And third, the overall performance of athletes in competition. So no matter how good you are at your sport, even if you're a cross-country superstar like myself, the mindset of an athlete can play a huge role in how they perform. It's like driving a car. It doesn't matter if you're driving a super cool sports car, a 50-foot black shiny limo, or your dad's beaten up old pickup truck from 1992. If the driver is tired, sick, or just a bad driver, you're gonna be in for a pretty bumpy ride. Furthermore, there's a misconception that athletes can't have mental health disorders or struggles because of the chemistry behind the physical body. Let me give you guys a quick chemistry lesson. So, when the physical body does physical exercise, they emit hormones like endorphins and endocannabinoids. And so, these hormones, when emitted, cause the body and mind to feel good. So the misconception is that because athletes are so continuously working out that they have no time to feel stress or anxiety because of the hormones. However, this is totally false because of the many statistics that are out there that show that athletes can develop many mental health disorders like severe anxiety and stress, depression, eating disorders, or substance abuse. So I keep on talking about athletes need support. Athletes should find support. Athletes should get support. But what's an example of an athlete actually getting the support that they need and it working out for them? Well, fear no more, because we can look at the experiences of Simone Biles, an Olympic gymnast. When Simone Biles dropped out of the Olympics, she shocked the entire world, but also sent a message to many athletes that athletes need to start prioritizing their mental health. But how? How can somebody just so casually drop out of a competition where millions might be watching? Well, it's because Simone Biles had a very good support system. Throughout her competitions and the break from them, Simone Biles had numerous support from her family and her husband, who played a huge part in supporting her. And so, because of this support, Simone Biles felt safe and supported to prioritize her mental health, which allowed her to come back to the next Olympics and dominate the gymnastics game. But what does it look like when an athlete doesn't get the mental help they need? How does that impact their mental health? Well, we can look at the experiences of Kevin Love, who plays in the NBA. Kevin Love, before halftime at a November 7th game, described how he would play the playbook of life on the playbook on how to be a man, which taught him just man up and face all of his problems alone, because that's how macho men deal with problems. However, ultimately at halftime, Kevin Love faced a horrible panic attack in his locker room, which forced him to withdraw from the game. And this was ultimately because he bottled up so of his emotions that it just led to this big outburst of stress. So after this experience, Kevin Love acknowledged that he needed support and counseling, that he couldn't just go through his problems alone. And Kevin Love now advocates for athlete mental health around the world for many athletes. So the question is, how can we help? How can we help athletes feel more supported and comfortable to get the counseling that they need? Well, number one, coaches. Coaches are the people responsible for building an atmosphere that's safe and supportful for their athletes. If we require coaches to complete certified mental health awareness courses, like a CPR course, they can gain a better awareness of how to support and console their athlete in times of need. I believe that coaches shouldn't just help their athletes grow in the sport, but should help their athletes grow in life and become a better human being that develops fortitude and inner strength. Secondly, coaches can appoint team therapists and team leaders. Let me tell you all a story. When I was in middle school, one day I just started crying for no reason. And so I was sent to the counselor, and the counselor was like, "Whoa, why are you crying?" I didn't say anything, because I didn't want to tell the counselor anything. But as soon as my friends asked me, I told them the whole detail. I was sad, and this happened to me, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. That's a great example of how it can be hard and embarrassing to share stuff about you with total strangers. But if you're talking with somebody who's a close friend or a fellow teammate of yours, it can be a lot easier to talk about what's on your mind and just vent it all out. Additionally, the family an athlete comes back to has a huge impact on how they deal and handle with mental health. If we give athletes' families mental health newsletters or mental health education nights where they can learn about what the impact of that athlete's sport has on their mental health, they can gain a better understanding of how to properly support their child and become a greater support system for their child. Finally, athletes. Many of you just need to have some self-confidence. And when I mean self-confidence, I don't mean confidence that comes from trophies or awards or medals or from your friends, family, or teammates. Self-confidence comes from you, the feeling that you know that you are good enough, that you are worthy, that you don't have to be somebody else that you try not to be. Because in many sports like cross country, you're not competing against others. You're competing against yourself to be the best version of yourself. Because furthermore, the best version of yourself is a version of you. There's this saying that I always go back to. When Kobe Bryant was first asked if he was going to be the next Michael Jordan, he said, "No, I'm going to be the next Kobe." When LeBron James was asked if he was going to be the next Mike, he said, "No, I'm going to be the next LeBron." When Anthony Edwards was asked if he was going to be the next Mike, you can guess what he said. He said, "No, I'm going to be the next Edwards." And when Joshua Mathew was asked if he was going to be the next Usain Bolt, he said, "No, I'm going to be the next Josh." So see, all these great players, they didn't try to be somebody that they weren't. They were themselves. So, if we don't lend out a hand to athletes, they may never know that there was a hand reaching out, ready to support them. And they'll be stuck in the cycle of repression and frustration until they're stuck eating Whoppers in a Burger King. Please don't become like me. That phase costs like $100. It's very expensive. So I urge you, help out all those athletes you know who are going through unseen struggles, who are putting in hours of grueling training, invisible to most, who repress and hide their feelings either because they're scared they'll be a burden or because they feel like many might not care. Because in modern times, it seems like people care less and less about mental health, whether it's because athletes are now just stats on a fantasy football page or a cash grab to coaches and team managers. Shine a light on these unseen struggles and become a guiding light for those who are struggling with mental health. I guess you could say, unveil the unseen.